Chad AC Show, News Talk KFYO. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We go to the phones, Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Chad. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Appreciate you joining us. I don't know if we're getting back to normal on the political scene, but at least on social media, we're starting to see ads being released from both Joe Biden and President Trump's campaign directed at each other about, coronavirus handling. And I think the Biden camp launched one against Trump about how he has handled coronavirus. Are we starting to see, at least on the national side, things starting to ramp up a little bit between these two camps?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think we're still going to be in a phase where it's going to still, be very much dominated by the news and by what Trump's doing on the official side rather than the campaign. But the campaigns are moving forward. The Trump campaign does an online broadcast every night that's getting pretty massive audiences. I saw, Biden raised, I think, a record amount of money in March, but is still an astounding $187 million behind where Trump is going into the general election. And so, the campaigns, they're not just sitting back doing nothing. They're making calls, they're engaging online, they're raising money as much as they can, they're holding virtual fundraisers, and they are starting to engage directly back and forth. But we're going to be in a kind of a weird phase for a few months here until you can start campaigning in person, until Trump can start holding rallies and Biden can start holding rallies, until we have clarity on whether the national conventions are going to be held as large gatherings. We're going to be in a kind of a weird phase.
Yeah. What do you think, if you had to handicap right now who Biden is looking at for his VP pick, because I think this is going to be one of the most important VP picks for him, because there's going to be there already are a lot of questions about whether Biden can handle 4 years in office. Forget about 2 terms in office, just 1 term in office. This puts a lot of pressure on him to pick someone and really kind of get it right, I guess, as far as the Democrats' messaging.
Yeah, I agree. The VP for Biden will be important. It'll be important, I think, for 2 reasons. One is the reason you identify, which is, as questions about his capacity, his mental capacity, his, stamina really continue, having a VP that's ready to go and prepared and qualified, I think will put some of that at ease. But I think the other reason is that, for whatever Biden's strengths are, one of his significant weaknesses is he's having trouble, creating enthusiasm. And you're seeing that in the small dollar, fundraising numbers, although I think Biden had a much better March. But he's still, considerably lagging Trump. And Trump is dominating him online. I mean, I posted some stats last night. Obama endorsed Biden, and there were these fawning stories about how many clicks the video got in the first hour or the first 6 hours, whatever. I think I want to say 6 days, it got 10.2 million views. Trump put out kind of a trolling video of Obama endorsing Biden last night, and I think within 13 hours it got 10.3 million views. So in half a day it got more views of a major video than Biden did in 6 days. So that enthusiasm gap, though, there might be a way for Biden to try to address that. As I look at the potential VP candidates for Biden, there's really only one person who scares me as someone who wants to see Trump get reelected, and that's Michelle Obama. Yeah. To me, do I think she's qualified in a traditional sense? No, I don't think being first lady is a qualification to be president or vice president. But she's an absolute rock star in politics. I think we have to be honest about that. She would obviously motivate the Obama coalition. She would attract crossover votes and independent votes. Now, the odds of her doing that, I think, are extremely low. It might even be zero. She never liked politics. She was desperate to get her life back. She's never run for office. You don't start by running for vice president. Only Trump can never run for office and out of nowhere run for president and get elected. I mean, Eisenhower's the only other obvious example of someone who's never run for office and could run for the first time at that level. Of course, he'd been head of the Allied forces, so that's really in some ways a national office at that time. So, but if you look at the other VP candidates, Kamala Harris, the African American Democratic Senator from California, you look at the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat of Minnesota. People are suggesting Stacey Abrams, this former gubernatorial candidate in Georgia. To me, the one who sticks out as I think the most likely choice for Biden is Klobuchar. This election is going to come down in the Midwest. Klobuchar is qualified. I don't think there's really any question of that. She's a second-term senator. She's got a pretty good record. She ran for president and handled herself well. And I just think she has the sort of the least weaknesses of all the other candidates. Whitmer is clearly not ready for to be a national office holder. She's kind of been very uneven how she's handled the coronavirus response in Michigan. Stacey Abrams is fundamentally unqualified. She served in the state house for 10 years. She was a trial lawyer. You could maybe make an argument she was qualified to run for governor, and I would argue even against that, but she was certainly not qualified to be vice president of the United States. Kamala Harris is interesting. Could be a way to reach out to black voters. California is not important politically, but very important financially. Yeah. And it could be a way to try to reconstitute the Obama coalition. To me, those are the choices that I see if he's really committed to a female. He could look at Andrew Cuomo, given what's happened. Could look at some other option that we're not considering. But to me, I still think Klobuchar is probably the most likely option.
What's the update? I know you have it in your morning newsletter that you sent out this morning. The Fifth Circuit upholding this abortion ban here in Texas.
Yeah, this has been challenged several times, and I think it got a favorable ruling from the abortion industry at the lower level, but it's been struck down, or it's been, upheld by the Fifth Circuit at the federal level. My understanding is that the original order expires Wednesday, and so but Abbott's got a choice to make, and at his announcement on Friday when he rolled out his plan to start reopening the economy, he was asked pretty directly about whether returning to some non-essential medical services would include abortions, and he didn't really answer it directly. So I imagine we're going to get clarity on that tomorrow. Again, this is not no abortions forever. It's no abortions for this time period, on the basis that some abortions do require hospital visits when they go wrong or when there are very poor reactions to the medicine, and given that they were trying to prevent people from going to the hospital for any reason other than COVID-19, it's entirely appropriate that would happen. Of course, the exception to the stated policy was life of the mother, not to other exceptions, but that was the only exception. So if abortion was necessary to preserve the life of the mother, it was still allowed. So, that's the final word. I mean, it's over till Wednesday, but Abbott's going to have to decide if he wants to extend it or not, and I think it's going to be a really interesting choice for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell folks how they can sign up for your newsletter and your podcast.
Yeah, I know you subscribe to the newsletter, Chad. We've got more than 3,000 Texans that receive it. It's called Must Read Texas. Really encourage your audience to check it out. I imagine they're reading the Lubbock newspaper or following local television news every day, but they're missing out on news all across the state every day. So we wake up and read newspapers and news organizations from around the state, put a clean, easy-to-read email together by 9 a.m. and send it out. You can sign up for a free one-week trial at mustreadtexas.com. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. Put out one episode a week. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Most recent episode is all about the reforms that we need at the World Health Organization. You've seen the president go after the WHO recently. We talked to Lyman Stone, an expert at the American Enterprise Institute based in Hong Kong. Fascinating conversation, very much worth checking out.
Very good. Matt, thank you for your time. Stay healthy. We'll visit with you next week.
Same to you. Take care, Chad.
That's Matt Mackowiak here on the Chad Hasty Show News Talk, KFYO.